Welcome everyone. Greetings of peace and love and gratitude. We're here a few days before Thanksgiving and welcoming you to Miracles with a Twist Conversations. I'm Reverend Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton. We'd like to dig deep around issues related to A Course in Miracles from an interfaith and from an everyday spirituality perspective. Today we're going to be looking back on the discussion we had on Thursday at Miracles with a Twist. So we've got Miracles with a Twist on Thursdays, Miracles with a Twist conversations on Tuesdays, because we want to keep the conversation going and keep us all connected. And we can start right now getting connected by taking a nice deep breath together, all of us. And then exhaling and putting our hands on our hearts. Feel your heartbeat. And today, as we meet a few days before Thanksgiving, we want to be especially aware of all that we have to give thanks for. And our overall commitment to living in a state of gratitude, regardless of circumstances, knowing that whatever happens in our lives, that we can continue to show up as sacred servants, as compassionate responders, and as instruments of peace. And today we are especially grateful for our brothers and sisters who travel this road with us, this sacred journey, our mighty companions, our kindred spirits. We give thanks and we move forward into this day knowing that we will be guided as to what to do, what to say, who to reach out to, and how to do so that we are continuously connected to the divine and through the divine to one another. And for that and for so much more, we give thanks. Let us take another nice deep breath. And then get grounded as we exhale into this moment, connected to one another. Hello, Goddi Lisa.
Hello, RevLo.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Looking forward.
Thank you so much for that wonderful opening prayer. It brings me right to the two things that jumped out at me and we touched on Thursday, and that is thanks and gratitude.
Yes.
And it's very easy to interchange them and just use one or the other. But there's certain times that I realized that I use the word thanks and I use the word gratitude. And on Thursday, you even mentioned that you were looking at these two words and you spent a lot of time looking through them, and then you were like, they're so interchangeable. We just kind of moved on, not forgetting it, but just moved on. So, but it stuck in my head because I'm, a word person, and sometimes I do get, a little crazy. So I started off, and you had asked me about Ken Wapnick, and I thought it would be best to bring him up today. So because I found it very interesting, and it was in his overall, and this is of course Journey Through the Workbook by Ken Wapnick, his overall commentary on this lesson, which is, I thank my Father for his gifts to me, lesson 123, I just gleaned from it that it's really neat that we're coming up to Thanksgiving now, because we hear the word gratitude, and with Thanksgiving, that the holiday Thanksgiving, gratitude always comes up. So I got to thinking about gratitude and thanks, gratitude and thanks. So I decided to lay it on my husband, which I do periodically when I'm kind of, getting into my own head. And I asked him, I said, if you could define thanks and gratitude, would you define them as synonyms? And he said right away, no. Me, I had to, go through it, but he said no. And I said, okay, define thanks. He said, well, thanks is easy for me to define. He said, to me, when I give thanks, I'm giving thanks for something specific. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my family. Thank you for the rain, whatever, something specific. He said, but gratitude to me, and he said, and I really can't think of a way to define it. He said, it's a, and I said, a state. And he said, yes, but more than that. It's like, it's an experience. He said, gratitude to me is an experience. I like, when I'm in gratitude, I'm in a different place than when I'm not. And I can give thanks from a place of gratitude. And I thought that was really neat. And that is my husband. He's a marvelous guru of very few words. He should have been a Buddhist. But I'd like to read, I'm reading it from the commentary, but it's not commentary. It's actually, the title, as we remember, is I Thank My Father for His Gifts to Me. And paragraph 2 says, a day devoted now to gratitude will add the benefit of some insight into the great extent of all gains which you have made, the gifts you have received. So that starts out with the lesson saying, I thank my Father for my gifts, for gifts to me. And paragraph 2 starts with, a day devoted now to gratitude. Now, I'm sure most people know, but just for those who don't, we are not talking about Thanksgiving Day. We are talking about day 123 in the lessons. And it happens to be, I thank my Father for his gifts to me, and that's why it was chosen. So a day devoted now to gratitude will add the benefit of some insight into the real extent of all the gains which you have made, the gifts you have received. Be glad today. In loving thankfulness, your Father has not left you to yourself, nor let you wander in the dark alone. And I thought those two paragraphs, or it was 2 lines in one paragraph, were interesting because gratitude and thanks were used in both. And so if Jesus had chosen to make thanks and gratitude the same, I think he would have entitled it, I thank my Father for his gifts to me, and used the word thanks throughout, as opposed to gratitude and thanks. And so I got to thinking about my husband and what he said. And I thought, and reading the commentary, it was deeper than Thanksgiving coming up. Okay, so the celebration of Thanksgiving, we all know is a little off kilter, the actual historical version that we've been taught. But we know there was a connection between the Pilgrims and the indigenous Native Americans in Cape Cod, at Plymouth Rock. And so we know that was deeper, supposed to be, as we were taught, deeper than 2 conflicting tribes getting together and making nice, and then going on their separate ways and not making so nice. So while that's what we've been taught, we seem to hang on to the Thanksgiving part, which is great, but we very easily dismissed the atrocities that went on. Just in Massachusetts, right where they allegedly held the first Thanksgiving, when the one time that the Pilgrims invited the Native Americans to join them, the Native Americans actually thought they were being attacked by the Pilgrims, because the Pilgrims were shooting off guns to celebrate the harvest, And the Native Americans came all ready to fight, and then they actually were able to go, oh, before anybody got too hurt, figure out what they were doing, which was everybody was celebrating the same thing, the harvest, and being together. Unfortunately, that beautiful part did not continue. So, but we, as Americans, on the last Thursday, I guess it is, of every November, we have this Thanksgiving celebration and tell this story, and we have turkey and stuff. But by reading all this, there's a lot out there on Thanksgiving and gratitude and food and all of that. It's out in the media and TV and everything because Thanksgiving is Thursday. So I read, and you had mentioned to me about the way that Native Americans celebrate Thanksgiving or look at Thanksgiving, as opposed to the way that pilgrims did and we do now. So I wanted to check that out, and I did a little research on that, and I found that the Native Americans on Cape Cod who actually live in the area, the place where the first Thanksgiving allegedly took place, they have 13 Thanksgivings, and it's called 13 Thanksgivings or 13 moons, and they follow the lunar calendar, and they have a Thanksgiving celebration 13 times a year. And I thought, what a beautiful thing to be focused on Thanksgiving and ultimately gratitude, because that's what they were grateful for the harvest, grateful for the animals, grateful for the moon, grateful for storytellers. Even one of the Thanksgivings is the Thanksgiving of storytellers because it held on to their traditions and so forth. And it was all coming together to me that we, as students and teachers of A Course in Miracles, learn this every day in our lessons about gratitude and Thanksgiving without necessarily either of those words being used in that specific lesson or in the text or whatever, because we are always supposed to be working towards being in connection with the divine and the unity of us all as one. And so if we could take this, even though it's a created holiday that we've kind of tweaked, and most holidays are, they're tweaked from history and we've made them into what they are. If we can learn from them, the biggest thing to me is that never let a day go by that is not in thanksgiving and gratitude of something else, of something. So if we are in a state of gratitude, which, to use my husband's definition, is an experience, a feeling of this desire to give thanks. What a beautiful tribute that would be to our fellow brothers and sisters, to our environment, to the world, if we just hung on to what Thanksgiving and gratitude are really about. Because forgiveness and love and peace all fall into that. Try very hard to be in a state of gratitude and get angry. Thanksgiving, thanks comes forth with gratitude. Try to get ticked off at your neighbor as you're in a state of gratitude. And we've all been in a state of gratitude where it's like, it just doesn't get better than this. This is beautiful. And so we can't do it. And so I just thought that if we can truly honor this Thanksgiving Day as an opportunity for salvation, atonement, peace, you name it, and look at it from a course perspective, from a Native American perspective, from my husband's perspective of gratitude every single day. That celebration will be raised, in my opinion, to a much higher level, because it's not just thank you for this wonderful turkey, thank you for our family being together. It's like, thank you for the world, thank you for everything, thank you for the abundance that resides here, thank you for the clarity to see it, and may I take this, may I see this tomorrow and the next day and the next day. May I see this always. And if I'm not seeing it, may I see it differently. May I see it as I did on Thursday. May I see it as I did on Thanksgiving. So that's really what I wanted to say. I wanted to thank you for that, the thanks and gratitude. And I want to thank our Indigenous brothers and sisters for their insight, and my husband, and making me think that Thanksgiving, and of course Kenneth Wapnick, not to mention Jesus, for making me realize that this is a wonderful opportunity to really step up my game. And if I falter, and I will, throughout the year, different lessons and things, experiences will bring me back, and then I will falter again, but I will come back to Thanksgiving again next year. And it will not be the same as it was last year. I'm always grateful on Thanksgiving to look around at everybody and to be mindful of those who are struggling, and just how blessed we all are. And I'm so aware of God's grace, but it is so easy for me to falter and trip over myself and kind of go off. So I am going to make Thanksgiving Gratitude Day instead of Thanksgiving, because to me, I want to experience the need to give thanks every opportunity that I get. So that's
Well, thank you. So I want to, thanks for those thoughts. I wanted to, what was going through my mind, I wanted to just sort of point out the paradox of Western society, because we have freedoms. We have so many freedoms, you know, and one of our freedoms is freedoms of religion. And so even though politicians often say this is a Christian society, basically it's a Judeo-Christian society, that freedom of religion has really shown us the amount of divisiveness we have around spirituality and around religion, because I believe there are 39,000 religions in this country. And by that I mean, you know, we can say Christian, but it's broken down into many facets of that. And then we have Western religions, and we have indigenous religions, faith paths, and all of that. So the paradox is that we're not a society that's immersed in being spiritual. Whereas the indigenous people of this country, as well as other countries, is not just the Native Americans, in addition to the natives of New Zealand or any area of Europe, any indigenous people have spirituality built into their culture, that their cultural practices are spiritual, that they have, like the monthly Thanksgiving is a monthly honoring of the phases of the moon, and honoring the earth, honoring the sky, honoring the air, and it's all built into their lives. And that's true of other religions too that are more Eastern. You know, think of Islam or Sufism, where there's time put aside every 5 times a day, times a day. Stop what you're doing and pray. You know, we have, some of us have our alarms that go off, throughout the day. And that's reminding us to, stop and take a breath. But it's really not stop what you're doing, get on your knees and pray and truly do a prostration and bow to the divine. And, we don't have that in this society. We don't have that immersion into our spirituality. And that is the paradox, because we have the freedom to not have it. We have the freedom to have all these other religions. But at the same time, what you're suggesting is that, that we keep this in mind is what so many of us on the spiritual path are trying to do, is to make our lives an immersion into spirituality. And there's lots of ways to do that too. I mean, there's people who follow, you can be American and follow anything, Buddhism, Hinduism, we can, especially here in South Florida, we can find a temple for just about anything, but when we go to those temples, we find people who have immersed themselves in that life, We can go to kirtan once a month, but are we getting up and immersing ourselves in the spirituality that was inspired by that kirtan event? I know like when Rev Grace does it, and I do my drumming and, my bongo and conga drums, and, and I think, wow, why don't I do this every day? Because it's that reminder of how high our spirits can be lifted. And so I think this generation, not meaning in terms of age, but this time of life where more and more of us are looking at spiritual practices, regardless of their Eastern, Western, or indigenous, we are recognizing the need to be immersed in that and making that a priority. It just isn't the way of American life. We're much more immersed in, capitalism and functioning in ways that are not necessarily God first, And so I love that we are at this time of our lives, making our own individual commitments, because I think that's what's going to take, because we can't all do one thing. The Course even says a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is possible and is necessary. And so we all just do the best we can. We weren't born into one of those indigenous societies where it's day in, day out. It's always a part. And for us, we have to make it a commitment and a discipline, so that as the Course teaches us, our eyes do start to change, and we do start to look for peace instead of whatever it is we're reacting to or responding to in a way that's not coming from love. And that's what spiritual practice is, and that's what we're doing. And one of the other lessons that we did not go into was love is the way I walk in gratitude, or gratitude is the way I walk in love. Either way you say it, it means the same thing, that we're trying to live our lives in a way that we bring gratitude and love into everything that we do. And so even when it's a bad day or a horrible year of losses and sadness, we can still look at that from the perspective of who can I be in this? Who do I become as a result of this? And how do I show up through this? And the phrase I used last week was that there's good news in the bad news, which is that we get to see who we really are. We get to see how our spiritual practices can be put into use when we need it, at a time when we would rather just curl up in a ball and scream and yell and not face whatever it is that's going on. Our spiritual practices is like our physical practices, just like yoga practices. We've learned how to stretch a little deeper and to grow a little stronger through our spiritual practices, so that we can show up and so that we can find a reason to be grateful. And usually in the hardest times, the reason to be grateful is each other, that we have each other to help each other through and to hold each other up. I'll never forget how thankful I am for a woman who came to the memorial for Libby, and I went over to the side during one of the songs, and she just got up and put her arm around me, and we both leaned up against the column there, and I was like, wow, what a beautiful moment of sacred service that she did just out of instinct, and it's times like that we remember that we are here to see the best in each other, to continue to hold each other up, and to find reasons to be grateful, to find reasons to come from love. So love is the way I walk in gratitude. Gratitude is the way I walk through love. And yeah, and we do have our indigenous brothers and sisters for teaching us that. But because before we came in and tried to change their religion, they already had deep faith.
Mm-hmm.
They already had a deeply seeped life of gratitude, of honoring, of awe, of being in awe of the greatness of what they call Father Sky and Mother Earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like our spiritual practices bring us back full circle to the very basics, which is, you know, just to start your day in gratitude and to remember your spiritual practices throughout the day and to just keep doing better, you know, just rising higher, loving steadily,
Mm-hmm.
forgiving readily, you know, and making that a part of who we are. And, you know, there's some religions where everybody wakes up in the morning and says the exact same prayer. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool to know that no matter where you are in the world, that there's people praying with you the same prayer and starting out their day the same way. And so since we don't have that, mostly in Western society, we can all sort of pick and choose and know that regardless of what I'm praying, if it's different than you're praying, at least I know you're out there praying.
Mm-hmm.
At least I know that more and more of us are making that commitment to starting our days with a hand on our heart and a connection to the divine. So that's something to be grateful for as that mindset continues to grow. Some people start with chanting, some people start with meditating. You know, whatever it is raising the vibration, the overall vibration, and spreading the light. And that's ultimately what we want to do, is to spread the light and love in the world, so that where we go, there'll be other people who are doing the same thing. And instead of finding adversarial conflict, we find allies in love and gratitude. So happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you and to my dear brother Paul, and to all our friends and mighty companions.
Well, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to you upcoming. I would like to end, I want really thank you for everything that you brought in with the Eastern and Western, because it's just so important. And I love that that you spoke of saying, not necessarily having to say the same prayer, but if we get up in the morning and we are just kind of clear our head and just ask whomever or whatever to clear us of all the crazy, to connect us with our brothers and sisters everywhere, with nature, everything, keep us in gratitude. That is the prayer. That makes me think of St. Paul when he said, pray unceasingly. I do not believe that he meant never get off your knees and never stop pounding your chest. It's live this experience of divine perfection with your brothers and sisters, with your planet, with everything you come into. And you start out every week with a prayer where you ask us to join together and put our hands on our hearts, knowing our hearts are all beating together as one. That's big right there. It's a connection that always gives me goosebumps, and it humbles me to be a part of that. So I've meant to several times, even off the air, to say thank you for that. And I love it. And so now I'm going to end with, this is an Apache blessing. And I thought a blessing would be a nice thing to do today, as opposed to a prayer. Not that they're different, but they are. Well, we don't need to get into semantics again, right? So this is from the Apache. May the sun bring you energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze breathe new strength into your being. And may you walk gently through the world and know its beauty all the days of your life. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Great Spirit.
Amen.
And thank you to you, Goddi Lisa.
Thank you, RevLo.
I'm very happy that we have found this forum for discussion, and anyone who'd like to add a comment or a question, we will have our email attached to the bottom. You can either comment under the video or send us an email and we'll respond. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, and please really do that, because the more we hear from you, the more we can respond to you and create a community of safety and growth and love and all of that. So people are a little silent, but you don't have to be. And we have the email if you don't want to comment out, you don't want to post a comment, you can always email. So we really want that. We really do. I see a few of you out there checking us out. So let us know what you think. So.
All right. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless
Namaste.
you.
See you Thursday.
Okay.
Bye.